Hi, everybody. Welcome again. I have Jay. No need for the introductions. This evening, we're going to discuss, we've already discussed the recent events at Speaker's Corner, but really, we're going to look at who is to blame for the violence. And then I guess we will kind of go around with that subject until I win. Okay, then. Jay?
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting subject, and we have decided to take two opposing positions on this. And I'm going to argue that Hatun must continue to do what she is doing, even if it does cause violence. And Kay, I'll let you just tell us what position you're going to take.
I'm going to argue for a modification, not for a cessation, but for yeah, I'm going to argue who is to blame and then what can be done whilst we await justice, as it were, whilst we await, civil society to reassert itself. Also, this Sunday, there will be increased numbers due to a visit by somebody else. So maybe we can get to that as well at some
Why
point.
don't you announce who's coming on Sunday so people know what we're talking about?
Okay, so Tommy Robinson has said that he would like to come and show support for Hatun, which is lovely. And he doesn't generally travel alone. So I have a feeling there'll be quite a few well-wishers coming along. So hopefully that all goes well, but we
We're
can only
talking
wait.
about November the 1st. This is November the 1st, this Sunday. There's going to be a large contingent of people coming down to, I understand, to give Hatun flowers and chocolates.
Yes.
Okay, let's get into this subject. And I'll let you go first, and then, or do you want me to go first and just give my
You can
position?
go first and I'll argue against anything I disagree
Okay.
with or set an opening statement.
Should Hatun desist? And this is an awful lot of people. It's not just UK. I'm getting it from all quarters. I'm getting emails for people saying, Jay, you have an influence on Hatun. Can you please to have her stop holding up that Quran with the holes in it and stop putting up those ghastly cartoons of Muhammad in diapers weeping? That this is not only it's not appropriate any longer. She's made her point. Now stop it, because once she's made her point, she needs to move on and go to other, and also because it may cause the corner to be shut down. And that's a valid point, and I understand that. And Kate, I know you've got some very good views on this, but let me give you my position, and hopefully also Hatun's position, because I understand Hatun absolutely why she's doing this. And it's much, and from my standpoint, this is much bigger than Speaker's Corner. This really, in some ways, doesn't really have to do with Speaker's Corner. She is arguing for two completely different narratives. One narrative is the preservation of the Quran, which is the ahruf and the qira'at, the razm argument. This is the argument that has been going on for almost 6 years in her case, and she has been at the forefront of this for the last 6 years. Came to a head on June 8th this year. So 2020, it's really come to a head. Holes in the narrative is the name that has been given to that, quoting Dr. Yasser Qadi when he made that famous statement in that interview with Muhammad Hijab. Now, that holes in the narrative is visually symbolized by the Quran with holes in it. That's the visual symbolization. And Hatun has used that and used that and used that for very good purpose, because now everywhere around the world, people have seen that Quran with holes drilled in it, proving that suggesting that the Quran has holes in it. And it's playing off the phrase of Dr. Yasser Qadi on June 8th. Should she stop putting that up there? I would say absolutely not. She must continue to hold that up, because it is the symbol of that narrative. It is the symbol of that whole debate. It is the symbol of what has been happening for in her case for 6 years. It's just been created. The name itself was just created 5 months ago. But every time she holds up that Quran, people at Speaker's Corner don't know what she's doing. That's why I'm saying this is not for Speaker's Corner, because every time she holds up that Quran, that is being filmed and it's been sent all over the world. And everyone around the world now knows what she means. She doesn't even have to say much. She says, "You got holes. You got holes. No longer is this book preserved. You've got holes all the way through it. Now you want to talk about it?" And she tries to get people to engage at that level. And immediately they're tongue tied. They don't want to talk. They want to talk about anything but that. Muslims don't want to talk about that. This is the thing you don't bring up in public. This is the thing you don't talk about. I'm quoting Yasser Qadi right there. So she has to continue to do that because she has become the figurehead for that. more so than any other person since June 8th. Hatun has been the figurehead for that very debate. And that's why the Muslims are really gunning for her. And that's why you saw what happened 6 weeks ago when 200 showed up and surrounded her, and the police had to escort her out, and they were yelling, kill her, kill her, kill her. They would like to see her dead because of that Quran with the holes in it. So that's one argument. But there's a second argument. There's another narrative, and that is freedom of speech. The freedom of speech is the cartoons. The cartoons were created not by Hartoon. These were created by Charlie Hebdo. And so she's been holding up the covers of all those Charlie, there's 6 or 7 of them. She holds one up after another and says, remember Charlie Hebdo, remember the right now as we speak, the trial is ongoing. It's happening right now in France. And then about a week and a half ago, you saw the young man go and kill the professor, the French professor, because he dared to hold up those cartoons in a classroom there in north of Paris, and had his head cut off, severed. France now is in a dilemma. What are they going to do with this? And what France has done is they're not going to stand for this violence anymore, because this is at the whole root of freedom of speech. If you cannot mock the Prophet Muhammad, just like you mock Jesus Christ, just like you mock everybody, if you cannot mock Muhammad, then if there is one person that you are not permitted to mock, you can mock anybody else, but you must not mock Muhammad, then you have shut down freedom of speech. So what Hatun is doing, she's cleverly putting both of those symbols, which represent both of those arguments, simultaneously. She holds the Quran on this hand, and she holds the cartoon. Now, she has some new cartoons that she has actually created that even that ongoing that Muhammad is a crybaby. That's her favorite one, because of and what she's saying is, you Muslims are crybabies. It's your prophet you cannot defend. And you're belittling him, and you're making him look like a little child, like a little infant with diapers on. And you're the problem, because of the fact that nobody can discuss him. Nobody can talk about him. And this is Speaker's Corner. This is unique to Speaker's Corner. The only place on earth where we can do it anymore. I can't do this, as she's saying. I can't do this anywhere outside of this. I can't do it on the streets. I can't do it on university campuses. I can't even do it on film. I can't do it on television. I'm not permitted to do it in print. We're not permitted to do this anymore, but at Speaker's Corner we can. So therefore, she's arguing two different things simultaneously. One is destroying and shutting down this idea that the Quran has been preserved, while at the same time saying, I have to have the right to say this. I have to have the freedom to say this. And I'm going to use the most potent symbol of that freedom, mocking Muhammad. And I'm going to use it here so that the whole world sees. As soon as they see this, they know what I'm talking about. And this is called symbolization. And it's one of the best vehicles that you have. And she gets it better than the rest of us. Because anytime she holds up that hole in the Quran, that's all she needs to do. She doesn't have to say anymore. It's just like when you go down the road and you see two different golden arches, you know that's McDonald's. Or you see someone with a shoe, and then you know that's Nike. You don't have to say anymore. You don't even have to. You don't even have to argue it. You just need to hold it up. Symbols are powerful. They communicate something. And these two symbols in 2020 are both being attacked. One is, you may not talk about the Quran. You may not say anything that gives any credits to the fact that it doesn't have any credibility. And the second one is, you may not say these things at Speaker's Corner. Now, if she were to stop doing these two, Muslims would have won. They would have won on both cases. They would have won about the preservation of the Quran. They say, see, if all you need to use is violence, all you need to use is threat of violence, and we can shut down that narrative. And secondly, if she ever stops showing those cartoons at Speaker's Corner, then you might as well shut down Speaker's Corner, because where else can you do it? What is left us? And the fact that she got beat for that, the fact that she got shut, the fact that she got knocked unconscious last Sunday makes our point, because she now has become the darling of the world. Everybody now knows who Hatun is, and she only took one beat. But look at the way she reacted. That's what was such a brilliant coup on her part. She didn't get up and talk about it. She didn't get up and yell at the guy. Even the guy though he was arrested, he was arrested. He was arrested right on film. Look at the film. She refused to press charges. She's not against him. She doesn't have anything against him. She doesn't want to press charges. She just wants the freedom to continue to shoot and push these two narratives. And this is not the only narrative. Her number one narrative, and that is behind and underneath all of this, is if you have a problem with the Quran, come on back to the Bible. We don't have these problems. We don't have holes in the Bible. If you have a problem with Muhammad and all the problems that he, if you're tired of defending this guy that cannot be defended, come back to Jesus Christ, because he can be defended. So underneath all that, she has an agenda, and she's very clear about it, because she always ends every one of her talks with the gospel of Jesus Christ. So I would suggest, my goodness, please don't stop her, and please don't stop this, because these two artifacts are much bigger than Speaker's Corner. They're at the whole root of what it means, what holds our Western society and makes it so strong. We cannot continue in our Western society without freedom of speech, and we cannot continue unless that freedom of speech is exercised by, yes, confronting something as heinous as the Quran and as heinous as Muhammad.
Okay, there's far too many points for me to counter, but I'll try with this. So my primary concern or observation, I guess, is that the preservation of the Quran must come second to the preservation of Hatun's life and the life of innocent bystanders and anybody who goes to Speaker's Corner to exercise their absolute free speech, which they have a right to do at the moment, and it's legally, enforceable, but we are able to do so. What I would say that is the continuation of such an iconic, globally recognized institute, as it were, for free speech is also, it's not more important than Hatun, but it must be sustained as far as I'm concerned, because with the hate speech laws we have at the moment and the incremental encroachment on people's everyday freedom of speech or compelled speech in certain parts of the Commonwealth, we must reserve the right to be able to critique and verbally attack or defend, whatever we like, basically, at Speaker's Corner. Where I would take issue is that I believe, and I absolutely see the iconography of the Quran with holes in it. Me personally, I don't like any desecration of any book. I could have been a librarian in a different life if I believed in a different life, but I don't like damaging books. That's just a personal thing that's always been with me. In terms of the cartoons, I think they may lose their efficacy if they are trotted out every single week, because as you said, there are only 7 or so, Charlie Hebdo cartoons. And if it was to draw attention to the slaughter of the French nationals and the ongoing trial and the subsequent Samuel Paty, then I would say absolutely that's a valid prop. But it doesn't fall under freedom of speech. It comes under freedom of expression, which is ever so slightly different. So if it was solely to raise awareness of the ongoing struggle that France is having with Islamism, I would say that's kind of put to bed at the moment, because Macron is taking a strong stand and exercising his freedom of speech as the premier of that country, and he's taking a hard line, although we've yet to see anything really come of that. Also, the ongoing trial makes it, I think, distasteful to hash over things that have yet to be legally set. So there's that. So the preservation of her life, I think also of her academic achievements, which are, massive in terms of the help and the work that she has done around this preservation issue. So I believe that people like David Wood, God bless him, can, fully exercise his rights to have parody as well as academic research and arguments, and that's fine, because he is behind the computer screen and he is somewhat shielded from being locatable every single Sunday. It doesn't take much to just have a look around the park and see if Hatun's there, although sometimes it does, because she's quite short, so you have to kind of look through people. I would say, yeah, definitely expression. So,
let me come back to these 2 points. So the 2 points you've made, and let's make sure I've said it, is that Hatun's life is more important than the need to continue with these.
No, I don't believe she needs to cease. I just believe that the incendiary use, I think the efficacy will diminish. If they're brought out every single week, they're no longer shocking. They're no longer fit for purpose, as it were, or serve a purpose. And she can actually, I would disagree with you, she can do it online. David Wood does it online, other people. She had the cartoon contest herself online. So yes, she can absolutely hold it up in her.
I'm going to actually deal with that point secondly. I want to talk about first about what's the importance of icons.
Yeah.
The importance of icons cannot be diminished. I don't think you or I understand how powerful that image is, both of the cartoons and of the Quran with holes in it. The holy, let's just call it the HOLY Quran, the
Ley.
HOLEY, sorry, the holy. Let's just stop that, because people are going to think we're thinking the Holy Quran. So let's just say the Quran's with holes in it. That Quran's with holes in it is enormously powerful, and will never stop. The fact that they're getting angrier and angrier makes my point. The fact that it has caught not only the attention of the world, but it has caught the attention of Muslims, and they don't know how to shut it down. But remember, every time she holds that up, she doesn't keep her mouth shut. Every time she holds that up, she says, I'm waiting for a response, Muslims. What are you going to do with these kirat? What are you going to do with these holes? Your Quran is not preserved. Not every word, not every letter. So she used that as a means to get into a discussion, and Muslims will not discuss with her on it. And that in and of itself speaks 1,000 words right there. Just the film, have that film where Muslims are walking away, where Ali Dawah walks away, where Ahmad Rashid walks away, where everybody walks away, Muhammad Hijab, they will not talk with her about it. The fact that they will not talk proves that they cannot talk about it, because there is no defense for these holes. That all right there, by the fact that you can put that on film, and you can film it and put it up on YouTube time after time after time again, the fact that Yasser Qadi couldn't answer it after 25 years. And he did say, for 1,000 years, we've not been able to answer this. Listen, these Qira'at have been since the 8th century. The first one was in 736. So from 736, we're now in 2020, this has been a problem for Muslims. And that's why Hatun, all she needs to do is hold that Quran up with holes in it and say, you've got a 1,000-year-old problem you have not dealt with. Therefore, do not say in my presence again that this comes from God. Do not say in my presence again that this is eternal. Do not say in my presence again that this comes from Muhammad. Do not say in my presence again that this comes from Uthman. This doesn't even come from the same century as Uthman. And it's not just this. There's 700 of these. 30 official ones, but 700 that we have that exist. So that's why the Quran is so powerful. And that's why I said at the very beginning, all you need is one image. You need one image. And that's what I said, you can, this is what branding does. It's called branding. You brand an item, and that brand then becomes the item. That's why it will never get tired. No one will ever get tired of it, because it has become the symbol of that debate. The same token, so have the cartoons have become the symbol of that debate. Now, she can come up with hundreds of different cartoons, and she does. In fact, she has a competition. Send me more cartoons if you want. If you don't like that cartoon, let's try another one. And they can get more and more ridiculous. She's doing a whole, in fact, this week, right now, online, she is doing a marathon of a birthday for Muhammad, to try to come up with songs that actually mock Muhammad and cartoons that mock Muhammad. Now, I will not, I'm with you, Kay. I don't do that. I cannot do that. She's going to have me on tomorrow night. And I said, I will not mock, but I will talk about serious problems with Muhammad, and I'm going to do the historical critique on Muhammad. And so she said, that's fine. You can do the historical critique. But others that are coming on, they're there to mock him. That is her own niche. And she's doing online. You're right. She does the same thing at Speaker's Corner. She doesn't walk away. It doesn't matter where she is. Now let's get to the second point. And you made a very good point. Is it worth her death?
No, I would say.
I would agree with you. We love her. God bless you. I love her. But I am not Hatun Tash. And I also am the one who, as she actually blames me for this second point. She said, Jay, you're the one that's to be blamed for the fact that I'm going to be killed. She assumes she's going to be killed at some time. I said, what do you mean you're to blame me? She says, you were the one that told me to read Acts chapter 17, 18, and 19, to read what Paul did in Berea, in Cappadocia, in Laodicea, in Ephesus. And I would encourage any of you who are watching this to go back to the Bible, open up Acts chapter 17, 18, and 19, and see what Paul did. In every city he went into, he went right into the synagogue, and he confronted the Jews with what they had done to the Messiah. And they hated him. And they threw him out. And he got thrown into prison. And he got beat up. Twice they tried to stone him to death. They actually stoned him outside the city gates. And what did he do after he finally was able to, listen, the guy was almost dead. And yet he got up, brushed himself off, and went to the next city, and did it all over again. He caused a riot in Ephesus, and finally they killed him in Rome. Now, Hatun has read that, and Hatun realizes, why should it be any different for me? She said it very clearly. When she got beat up and got up on the ladder back in 2016, she had a neck brace around her neck because the Muslims tried to hang her. She had broken ribs. She had a broken foot. She was on crutches. She was sweating profusely because she had a high fever on that day, because she should have been in the hospital. but she knew she had to get up on the ladder with me. And I said, no, you're going back to the hospital. She refused to go to the hospital. And she said, Jay, my place is next to you on the ladder. I've got to do this because this is God's kingdom. And I said, they're going to kill you. And she said, so what? This is my commissioning. So this idea of she will be killed, she will just laugh at that and says, listen, God will not allow the Muslims to kill me until it is my time. And when that time comes, it will be of God's choosing, not yours or mine. So this is something that doesn't even, this is an argument that she won't even listen to. As far as protection, she does not need any protection. She is very clear. She doesn't want me to protect her. She doesn't want Bob the Builder to protect her. She doesn't want you to protect her. She doesn't want anybody there because she believes God will protect her in the mission that she is at. And if she gets beaten up like she did on Sunday, look what she did. She got right back up and she continued to preach as if nothing happened. She didn't say a word about who the person was. When the police came to her to press charges, she refused to press charges because she has nothing against that man. She does not want to see that man incarcerated. She does not think like you or me, Kay. She does not think like us. She is a first century Christian. And I would suggest that she is probably the best example of Paul that we have in our lifetime. I don't know of anybody else who looks, or not looks, who acts like Paul in the 21st century as he did in the first century. So you can't, when you look at it from that standpoint, she's doing exactly what she should do. And I was the one that taught her this back when we were on the ladder in 2013, 2014, 2015, before I left then in 2017. I remember saying to her over and over again, and I said this to my whole team, you will get punched. You will get beat up. Now, listen, at that time, no women were punched. And to be fair, this is the first time Hatun's ever been punched at Speaker's Corner. Up to this time, they've pushed her and they've shoved her and they've pulled a chair out from underneath her. That's what they're doing. But nobody has punched her yet until Sunday. And I said that when you get punched, you never ever punch back. Why? Because Jesus never punched back. Jesus would never allow even his disciples to defend him. Even when they came to arrest him and Peter cut off the ear of the servant to try to defend Jesus, Jesus put the ear back onto the servant, turned towards Peter and says, put away your sword. For he who lives by the sword dies by the sword. And that is the verse that Hatun reminds me of. That's in Matthew chapter 26, verse 62. I can't remember that. If you can look it up and see where the verse it is. It's in Matthew chapter 26. I think it's verse 52. But there's the paradigm and there's the model that Jesus uses. As far as she is concerned, she must always do what Jesus did. She must always do what Paul did. She is a 21st century Christian who is living and acting like a first century Christian. So I don't think for us, we love her. We want to protect her. And our natural instinct is to beat up the guys that beat her up. But we can't, we dare not, we must not, because she has a ministry and a mission that is unique, I think, in the world. And if you have any doubt about that, look and see what happened on Sunday night when Colin out of Islamic Critique put up that GoFundMe site. He did it without her permission. She did not want this. She was livid and angry about it when she heard about it because he wanted to replace her glasses. And he was looking for $500. By the time, within 12 hours later, when he finally shut down that GoFundMe, it had gone to almost $11,000. $11,000. And what I loved is and you can still go up and look at it, look at all the comments. There is an enormous outpouring of love. People from 23 different nations gave money. Some gave as much as 500 at a time. They were anonymous. They wouldn't give their names. And what they're saying is, we absolutely love you, Hatun, because you are doing something that no one else is doing. Listen, David Wood, me, you, well, you go down to Speaker's Corner, but those are the rest of us. We're behind a television screen. We're behind a computer. We can't get touched. It's easy for us to criticize Islam. Hatun gets there every day, and every Sunday she is at Speaker's Corner. She is open to the world. She wears no flak jackets. She has no guards around here. She has no police to defend her. She would rather the police not even be there. She doesn't need any defense. And yet she's not even maybe just a little over 5 feet tall. This little woman who can hardly speak English, who from another culture, and English is not her first language, and yet she is more eloquent than the rest of us. And the part of her eloquence are those symbols that she holds up. That one Quran with holes in it and the cartoons. What eloquence more do you need? because in her case, she knows that they will continue to beat her up, that she knows that at some point they will kill her. But she's ready for death because Paul was ready for death, and because she has read Matthew 10. In Matthew 10, Jesus gives the commissioning for the 12 disciples. And he says to the 12 disciples, I'm sending you out as lamb before wolves. You're going to be hated for my name. Well, Hatun has been hated for his name. You're going to be persecuted for my name. I think we're pretty well that Hatun has fulfilled that commissioning. You're going to be jailed for my name. She has yet to be jailed that I know of. You're going to be flogged for my name. Yes, she has been flogged, and yes, she has been beat up, and she's almost been killed. And then finally, you're going to be killed for my name. Those are the 5 things in the commissioning of the 12 disciples that we need to read again. And what Hatun is saying is, those are my commissioning as well. I must expect to be hated. I must expect to be persecuted, jailed if need be, flogged. Yes, I'm there, and killed. I'm not there yet, but it soon will happen. And so she doesn't even think about whether she's safe or not. Safety is not her concern. Her fulfilling her commission is. Back to you.
Okie dokie. I'm going to try and reel off a couple of the things that I've just noted down. So Christ said you will be hated. He didn't say make them hate you. He said it's a done deal. You don't need to lift a finger. They're going to hate you because the darkness did not understand me. And no no student is greater than his master. If they hated me, and here they are ready to kill me, they're going to hate you. So that's one thing. Also, I genuinely believe that if we wish to reach atheists and Muslims and, whomever is not saved, and we can't say for sure, even which Christians are genuinely saved, but, excuse me, I don't believe that inciting anger or a heart filled with anger or hatred is closer to Christ or closer to accepting Christ than a heart that is merely full of deceit and ultimately wicked, and who can know it, and i.e. God can know it. That's the thing. I think that hate and anger lead to sin far quicker than maybe compassion or humor or love. So as we have love for each other at Speaker's Corner, and you're right, I am there every week, I don't wish to try to perform CPR on someone whose head is on the other side of the pathway. I just don't wish. I don't want to do that, and I don't believe that God is unable to make a point through Hatton without the use of a prop. So again, I'm not against the use of these props. I just think that if it's expected of her, and if it's every single week, again, it loses its efficacy. And potentially, I mean, the family of this French teacher, I'm sure they couldn't care less what happened in Speaker's Corner. But I think maybe the week following his decapitation potentially may have been the time to just take it down a notch, because academically, like I've said, she's already brilliant. She doesn't, eloquence has nothing to do with the props, Jay. She's already winning. She could go to Speaker's Corner after the academic brilliance that she's displayed this year, never say another word, and just smirk. And they know she's won, and she knows she's won. And that's one of my other points. Also, the domino effect of violence. So it only ever escalates in terms of exemplars. So it started off with a little shove, then she was pulled to the floor the next week, then the chair was removed the following week. Then we had a couple of weeks where, nothing happened, and hallelujah, praise God, all was back to normal. And then, it can be ascribed to this one crazy Muslim guy, or not particularly, because I happen to think that there's some organization going on with they all seem very young, the people who are turning up, not the kind of people who are going to namaz every Friday or particularly devout, but dissimilar to the Bible and Christianity. We have 600 years extra to have matured a little, and we've got one of the most researched and critiqued holy scriptures there is, and it's one of the best-selling books in the world for a reason. And I think therefore we don't, there's nothing in the Bible to say that anything other than blasphemy of the Spirit is something that must be attacked physically, because we obviously don't war with the flesh. So in terms of Paul, I would argue that Paul made best efforts to avoid causing riots. When he writes his letters, he said, I'd love to come and see you personally. I'm praying for you all the time. I really miss you guys. Do you remember when we did this and that? He wasn't American, obviously. But I won't be coming at the moment. I'm going to send Timothy. I'm going to send somebody else because I will start a riot. Not me, like not him personally. He's not going to go there and, you know, start flinging stuff around or pulling out pictures or calling the Jews idiots. But his mere presence would have incited such anger in the crowds that a riot would have ensued, and it often did. And he had broken bones. He was thrown in prison. He was stoned twice, I believe. You know, and yeah. So I don't think that he was as gung-ho as he may be portrayed. I think that he absolutely wanted to be amongst those faithful who got to saw the Son of Man coming again. He describes it as we who are living. He doesn't say you lot, I'll be long gone by then. So I think he had care for his body because he knew that Christ had care for his body, and he believed to die in Christ is to live for Christ. I'm not saying that Hatton doesn't do that, but what's the word? Like whether or not it's not my place to say, but I would say that flagrantly disregarding your own safety. There's a difference between being confident and saying, yes, God will 100% protect me, and endangering yourself potentially unnecessarily. And the reason the commission, all well and good, I don't remember Jesus saying anything about take your own pictures. And the reason for Peter and the non-defensiveness is that Christ was prophesied to die. He doesn't want to make Isaiah look like an idiot. It's happening. It's going to happen. He must tell Peter to desist, because he also says, go and buy a sword. Like, he's not saying, lay down and let people attack you. He's saying, this is what will happen if you continue to preach the truth. And that is what happens. But Speaker's Corner is very dear to me and very important to the commission. And one person's rights, I don't believe, sorry, I'm finishing now. One person's rights do not counteract everybody else's rights. So Muslims are free to say what they want, but no violence, because they're in the wrong, not Hatun, ultimately.
Okay, let's just go through each one of these point by point by point. And then I've got to go. My wife is just calling me for dinner.
No problem.
Hatred. First of all, do you think what Hatun is doing is hatred?
No, I mean the response to her. She is being,
so we should not cause
the hearts of the Muslims are being damaged by rather than trying to spread the love of Christ. I know polemics and apologetics absolutely go together, but I think it's kind of out of sync slightly, especially if Christians are running after attackers.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, Kate. Why do you think Christ gave that commissioning of those 5 points if he didn't expect us to be hated?
No, he did expect it. He didn't say you have to make it happen. He didn't.
Okay.
You know I mean,
so,
he didn't.
And that's a fair point. And that's a fair point. And that's a fair point. Let me just take that on board. We should not go to places which will increase the hatred. So Paul didn't go to certain places. And I would agree with you on that. He was there in Acts 19. He was there in the synagogue there in Ephesus. And after 3 months, he saw that he was not getting anywhere. And they just completely refused to even talk to him. And so he took off his shoes and brushed the dirt from his shoes. That's in other words, I'm having nothing more to do with you. Where did he go next? He went to the lecture hall of Tyrannus. The lecture hall of Tyrannus is a debating chamber. And he spent 2 years there. Now, I would suggest that Speaker's Corner is the best example of lecture hall of Tyrannus. Why? Because they are both for the same purpose. The lecture hall of Tyrannus is where anybody could come with any ideas. The Epicureans came there, the Stoics came there, the Jews were there, so were all the heathens. And that's why he was there. And it says after 2 years, the whole territory heard the gospel. That's how effective it was. In some ways, Hatun is doing the same thing Paul did. You're right. She's not going outside in the streets to do this. She's not doing this on university campuses. She's purposely not doing this anywhere but Speaker's Corner. Have you noticed that? She's only doing this on Speaker's Corner and also on the internet, because those are the venues that are meant for that. Speaker's Corner, by definition, is a place where you can say anything you want. It's the bastion of freedom of speech anywhere in the world. It's the only one that exists. Oh, there are many Speaker's Corner, but nothing like London, because this is the only one where you can say these things. So it's not that she's purposely get people to hate her. If Muslims do not understand freedom of speech, then don't come to Speaker's Corner, because that's the one place where you're going to hear things that are difficult to hear, not hatred. She doesn't say anything that's hatred. As you said, she's very eloquent. She's very academic. All her arguments are academic. She sources everything. She said, if she's going to attack Muhammad, she always sources his biography. If she's going to attack the Quran, she always gives the reference. If she's going to attack what he said and did, she's always goes through the traditions, and she always sources it. That's academia. That's what you're called to do. So you cannot say this is Islamophobia. You cannot say that this is unduly calling hatred. That is the Muslim's responsibility. That's not your responsibility or my, how they react. It's obvious to me that Muslims don't know how to react at Speaker's Corner. They don't understand the whole purpose of Speaker's Corner. And that's why I'm saying more than anything else, this must be protected. She must be protected at Speaker's Corner. The police have an obligation to protect her at Speaker's Corner, because if you ask her not to do this and she has to walk away from Speaker's Corner, if she gets banned from Speaker's Corner, then Speaker's Corner will no longer be a bastion of freedom of speech. And the Muslims know that anytime anybody says anything critical about Muhammad or the Quran or Allah, they can shut it down just by quoting violence, just by threatening violence. Now, secondly, you said, well, I kind of went the two parts together, that it has exponentially caused, it's been getting worse and worse and worse down there.
Yeah.
Absolutely it has. But whose fault is that? Hutton's?
Oh, I don't ascribe that blame to her at all. I'm just a realist. I just see these things happening. So yeah, I'd have a different solution.
Okay, well, what would your solution be? Because I don't know. If you're saying that she should stop this, then they've won. If you're saying she should stop holding those things up, then they won. If you're saying this is getting boring to see the same thing, no, it's not getting boring, okay? It may be for you, but look at the people around the world that are now countering on to that. And more than that, look at the thousands, not tens of thousands, more than you will ever communicate with. She is communicating this right around the world. And because of what happened on Sunday, it will exponentially even get larger. And because of the fact what Tommy Robinson will probably do, they will even get larger. But she is doing something not just for Christians, not just for Muslims. She's also doing this for humanists and atheists as well. And that's why this atheist wants to get a hold of me. He also wants to be part of this debate, because he realizes that Hutton has been more effective in the argument for freedom of speech than anybody else on his team. And yet she's not even she's not even a part of the Freedom of Speech Society. She never has been. But she is doing much better job than they are doing, just because she is being not only humble, but she is willing to be vulnerable, and she's willing to be beaten up like no one else has. So far, I haven't seen anybody who's been willing to do that. Not even the Charlie Hebdo people who were killed really wanted to be killed. And I'm sure this teacher, when he held up those cartoons, and his family, they don't want him to be killed. And I'm sure that you are that correct. That family wishes that he was still alive again. But Hutton is willing to be killed. That's the difference. And I know that you don't want her to be killed, and I don't want her to be killed, but I can absolutely understand why she is doing it, just because that is what all the early disciples, every one of the disciples, except for John, was killed. They were all killed. Paul was killed. Jesus was killed. They willingly went to their deaths. And until you can understand that, and I'm not saying you, Kay, I'm saying you people who are listening, you will not understand why Christianity has grown and grown and grown over the last 2,000 years. When do you think Christianity has grown the fastest? It's always been when it's under persecution. The whole the whole reason, one of the reasons why we are so strong is because we are willing to die for our faith. Well, like no one else. No one else is willing to die for their faith like Christians are. And you can see the blood of the martyrs. If you have any doubt, just look at the blood of the martyrs and just look at testimony after testimony of people who have willingly died for their faith. And I would suggest Muslims are willing to as well. I've seen Muslims do that, but usually they like to make sure other people die first. Christians don't want anybody to die, but they will not acquiesce on this point. They will not acquiesce on the gospel of Jesus Christ, on who Jesus is. And in this case, for Hutton, she realizes that you've got to confront the powers that be for Muslims to even hear the gospel. And she understands that uniquely polemics can do just that. She is a polemicist. I don't expect people to understand that side of it. That I understand because I'm a polemicist as well. I get that probably the better than anybody else. Paul was a polemicist. And that's why he confronted the Stoics. That's why he confronted the Epicureans there in Athens. That's why he confronted the Jews. Everywhere he went, he confronted them. And he never stop confronting them. And that's why he was hated. Yes, he was hated, Kate. And yes, he did have to. When he came to Jerusalem, the church wanted him to go down to the temple to do the purification rites just to prove that he was a Jew again. He obeyed the church, but look what happened. He got beat up. And the guards had to protect him. And then what did he do next in Acts 22? He then said, let me talk to the people. And then he stood for us and he just preached the gospel as he should have done. Have you noticed that Hatun, once she confronts the Quran, she always ends with the gospel. Once she confronts Muhammad, she always ends with the gospel. And she says, don't ever go to the Quran again, come back to the Bible. Don't ever go to Muhammad again, come back to Jesus Christ. She is just doing the model of Christ. She's doing the model of Paul. She's doing the model of the early church. I don't expect everybody to understand that. I understand it because this is something that we have been doing. We've been doing this for over 25 years. And I would suggest that for Hatun, she is so out of the ordinary. She is so unique, but she is creating a name for herself. And I think around the world, people are finally catching on that we finally have someone here who is willing to die for their belief. And most people aren't. I'm sure that family of the teacher in France did not want him to die. I'm sure they're quite upset with him for having done that. I'm sure there are a lot of people in France that are probably upset with him. But see, they're not Christians. Like they don't. I can't say if they are. Maybe they are Christians, and I don't know. What I'm saying is, for people like us, I assume that she will die, and I will miss her when she does. But I will also say she has done and fulfilled her commissioning, and I understand her when she tells me, Jay, don't worry if I get killed or not.
Okay, so I assume everybody I know will die because it's a tried and tested method. You're born and then you die, and that's kind of it.
When I say die, I don't mean that. You know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
You'll probably die at the hands of Muslims.
So with the 5 points of the commission, even though that's the model for the early church, there are many absolutely wonderful, brilliant polemicists and apologists and just general Christians who die naturally in their bed, you know, loved ones, the whole shebang, like, you know, last rites, whatever.
What a way to die if you were to do it in the name of God.
Yes, but you can do it in the name of God without, you know, these attacks.
You can, but that's don't impose that on Hatun. I'm saying if you want to die peacefully, that's fine, but don't impose that on Hatun.
I'm not. I'm countering your argument about the 5 points and about absolute. Like, no, I don't believe it's necessary to prove that you are commissioned by God to be murdered. I absolutely don't believe that. So also,
okay, please don't misquote me. I didn't say that. Please don't. I didn't say it.
You said, you actually said, why did Christ say you will be killed? You said
because we could expect it.
Yeah.
We could expect it.
Yeah, we can expect
it. The early church did expect it, and I would suggest most of the church in the last 2,000 years assumed that they would die for Christ's name. It's today in the 21st century that we've lost that.
Okay, but is it for Christ's sake to polemize? No, this is a separate debate, but the Quran is not of Christ, about Christ. Isa is not Christ. That it's different apologists, like it's different, you know, vociferously arguing the truth of the Bible.
Where has Hatun ever supported the Quran or Muhammad or Isa?
No, this is what I'm saying. I don't believe that the Quran has anything to do with Christ at all. So what I'm saying is, in terms of the commission, it's only half of the work to bring someone out of Islam. Then hopefully you're still alive to try and to get them to Christ. But that's not my main point.
Let me just take you on that. On that. If that were the case, then what's the purpose of going to Speaker's Corner?
Some people do apologetics. Some people preach. They don't argue at all.
So we should never confront anybody, is what you're saying.
No, I'm not saying that at all. Please don't put words in my mouth. That's ridiculous. Did you hear me saying
that? You said the Quran and Isa, and that is not the gospel.
I'm saying that the part of the commission is not the, we tear down false arguments for sure, but the commission is to bring souls to Christ. And I think that just destroying the Quran will make that massively easier. But being killed in the name of destroying a book that is so patently false in the first place is unfortunate. Martyrdom is all, you know, it has its place for sure, but I don't think one should seek it out. I think it should be in God's hands for sure. And I don't believe that God is reckless with his servants, basically, with his children whom he loves and was willing to die for them. It doesn't necessarily have to be reciprocated because we are finite in terms of our flesh. So my last couple of points, because I know your wife is cursing silently in the background. So Tommy coming along particularly puts some strain on the, I don't believe deliberately, but the thing that's been hammered home to me is that COVID restrictions will be used to close the park as they were earlier on in the year with the lockdown. So again, it's not, I have no issue. If Hatun wants to bring them every single week, she'll never hear dissent from me personally, because it's her choice. She's a grown woman. I do make a distinction between freedom of expression and freedom of speech, and so does the law, basically. But the Public Order Act states in section 29, potentially J, my memory's not that good, the act itself can't be used to prevent the ridiculing or insulting of another person's religion, or cajoling them away from their religion to your worldview or religion. So I don't think they're going to be able to hamper her or any of us with that section of the Public Order Act, but they have a duty, as you said, of care to the wider public who come through those parks. And the parks are not public spaces, they are private royal parks, and so they're ever so slightly different. And that's it, really. I don't wish to stop anybody should be able to come and say anything that they like. That's it. That's my freedom of speech. You need to use your vocal cords, and the props thing, I still don't have an issue with it, but I think that there are sensitivities that can be sensibly observed. And when violence is escalating, it's us, we are the ones who have love in our hearts for these people, and they certainly don't reciprocate often. And I think that can, you know, you can lovingly engage with it. If she wants to remain, I don't suppose she values this notoriety or the absolute, you know, her image everywhere, because I think what she wants to do is to speak to one Muslim or to a few Muslims, or be on a ladder and be able to engage
No.
effectively.
She is not really concerned with the Muslim she's talking to. She's concerned with the camera that she can talk to millions.
Exactly. At the
Remember,
that's
I've said this. This is something we have drilled into our head. Remember, the camera is absolutely essential, because
no, I was incorporating that into my argument.
Speaker's Corner doesn't really much. The people at Speaker's Corner are not that important. Okay, get this into your head.
I already agree.
Speaker's Corner are not that important, because most people at Speaker's Corner are usually eccentric people to begin with. They're not very eloquent, and they do not, and that's why in some ways we use Speaker's Corner, because we need those useful idiots, but we need the crowd. It's the people around the world that she's speaking to. Speaker's Corner is nothing more than a vehicle to get this out to the whole world. So remember, I know I've had a number of people who are from Speaker's Corner saying, "Can you shut her up, because she's ruining the rest of us who are there as Christians?" And I'm saying, this is not. It's much bigger than you. It's much bigger than Hatun. This is going all over the world. YouTube has changed everything since 2005, when it was invented. That's why I got on board in 2006, and I've been going for 14 years on YouTube. Why? Because I realized that if you're going to communicate, you're just going to waste your time just communicating to maybe 50 people. Why not communicate to tens of thousands? Why not communicate to millions? Like she is. She's up to almost 5 million, the people that she now has communicated to. How can you get that number at Speaker's Corner? So remember, what she's doing every week, that is going up on internet, that's going online, so the whole world can see it. And that's why I would suggest, if you're saying be loving, then I would suggest be careful, because how do you define loving? I love my sons, but when they go wrong, I confront them.
No, exactly.
And I shut them down. I love my friends, but if they go wrong, if I didn't stop them, if I didn't say something critical, if I didn't confront what they were doing, that would not be loving. And remember, Christ was loving when he overturned the tables and drove out the money changers. Christ was loving also in Matthew 23, when he said to the Pharisees, "You hypocrites, you den of vipers, you white sepulchres." That was still loving. And that's why I think this European view of being loving, that means never raise your voice, never say anything that's critical, and never confront the other. If that were the case, you might as well shut down Speaker's Corner, because that is the one place we can confront. It is the only place left to us to confront. And it's the only place we can confront the Quran and Muhammad, and do so on the same day, within 1 hour. So I would be careful about your definition of loving. I would also be careful about the whole idea that the gospel says we're not to confront. Absolutely, we are confrontational. Paul was very confrontational. If he was not confrontational, then what was he doing in prison? Then what was he doing getting beaten up? Then what was he doing getting stoned? Then what was he doing causing a riot? And then what was he doing getting killed? The fact that he got beat up, got stoned, caused riots, and was finally killed shows that he was highly confrontational. And we've lost that confrontation because we become so European. I'm sorry to say that, but it is mostly Europeans that have a problem with this. But I don't see Hatun's not a European. Hatun comes from Islam. She understands the whole whoop and woof of Islam. She understands that the one way to communicate to a Muslim is to be just as polemical as they are. Now, it's interesting. Have you noticed how aggressive Muslims are at Speaker's Corner? Have you noticed that they are always polemical? Why do you think Hatun's polemical in return? Because she's incarnating her message exactly like they would do it. So you as a European don't understand that, and I can see that, Kate. And I would suggest that most of the people who are Christians don't understand that because you're trying to think like a European. Stop thinking like a European, start thinking like a Muslim. Why
no,
do you
I'm going to think like a Christian, Jay. No, Jay, I'm going to think like a Christian because I was actually referencing 1 Corinthians 13. If I speak in the tongues of angels but have not love, do you see what I'm saying? I'm saying love must be included. I don't say love must be puppies and
kittens. Love again.
I'm saying the love is
2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 5. We must use arguments and take captive every thought and make it obedient to Jesus Christ. Do you see what he says? Look at verse 1 and 2 of that chapter. I am timid and shy when I'm with you, but I am bold when I am away. That's what Hatun's doing. And so she is bold when she is away. So she is following Paul to a T. And everything you see Paul doing, Hatun is doing. That's why I said earlier, she is a 21st example of Paul, I think, in our century. And I understand why an awful lot of Christians in Europe don't understand her. A lot of Americans don't understand. But what's fascinating to me is how many emails I'm getting from Africans, how many emails I'm getting from Pakistanis and Indians, how many emails I'm getting from Brazilians. They all understand her. They understand her. And how many ex-Muslims understand her? They get her. And they're saying this woman is as courageous as we've ever seen. This is the Lioness of London, they're calling her. Everybody's calling her the Lioness of London. God bless them. See, I understand that because I grew up in Asia. I grew up in India, and I grew up with Muslims all around me all my life. And I understand that the best way to communicate the gospel to a Muslim is to be just like them, to be as passionate as they are. And yes, if that means being aggressive and being polemical, then we've already got a model in Paul. So yes, we do have scriptural evidence for this. But let's make sure that we don't try to put our proclivities, our desires, our view of love onto Hatun, because she, in some ways, is getting it much quicker than most Europeans are getting it. And that's why I've always said, sometimes the best way to understand how to communicate to a Muslim is to go to the ex-Muslims and see how they communicate. And I have found that almost every Muslim that has become a Christian, they love what Hatun's doing. We don't, but they do.
All right, so I'm going to finish on this then. I was talking about the biblical instruction of love and the definition: patient, kind, doesn't boast, is not easily angered, that kind of thing. Also the 1 Corinthians. What I would say is, you mentioned that Hatun is bigger than this and bigger than that. She's not bigger than God. God's love will be fulfilled in those that are calling. You know that, I know that.
No one says she's bigger than God.
No, I'm not saying, no. This is me saying it, and I'm saying it in the negative. What I'm also saying is that Speaker's Corner is bigger than anybody who goes there. It's been going for more than 150 years in its present condition or legislation. And I'm fearful that, not because of Hatun, because of the reaction to Hatun. So because we are a mature society, it's not the Minority Report by any means, but we need to kind of try to preempt what's going on. With this Sunday, I'm hopeful, I'm prayerful that it will all go off without much violence. But I'd finish on this, that making atheists of Muslims is not loving them. We need to bring them to Christ. So she needs to still be around to finish what she's starting. She's getting halfway, and then we need to bring them home. Otherwise, everybody's going to hell who isn't under the blood of Christ. So it matters not which ship you go on, kind of thing.
I think Hatun has brought more Muslims to Christ than anybody else in Britain that I know of.
Excellent.
If you look at the numbers of people that she has brought to Christ, and she only uses polemics to do, she has brought more imams to Christ than anybody else I know in Britain. So she's doing an amazing job. A lot better than you or me, I'm afraid, because she understands.
There's always room for improvement for all of us. So
maybe for us, we can improve and maybe start being more like her.
God gives different people different talents and different. You and I are both very verbose, and I think that's how God wanted it.
So, okay, God bless you. Listen, I really do have to go. My wife is she's getting a little upset that we've gone over time.
No problem. She must have incredible patience. God bless her. All right, I'll speak to you very soon, and God bless you. And
listen, this has been a great discussion, Kate. If you don't mind, I'd like to put this up on Fander Film as well.
Sure, and of course.
Listen, I think this is the kind of thing that these kind of discussions, it's been very healthy, you and I going back and forth. And you do represent a position that needs to be heard. You do represent that voice, and I thank you that you did that. I know at first you were kind of reticent to be doing. Thank you for doing that. That's been brilliant. I represent another voice that is not as popular in the West, and I think it's good to see for that both voices are given. And what we're going to say to people who are listening, you choose now which is the one that you support, and if you don't support, right at the bottom, say so, say something. If you get upset with a case, say so. If you get upset with me, say so, because
Say
this
it
is
louder and in
happen.
capitals for Jay.
Okay, this has
All
been
right,
fun.
then. I'm
I've
sorry.
enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'd like to apologise. I didn't get around to any of the questions from the live chat. I do apologise. I don't know when this meeting ends. If I've still got a copy of them, I'll try and go through and have a look and see if any can be answered. But other than that, I'd pretty much like to stop this stream on a positive. So please do turn from Islam, holes, dodgy surahs, anything like that. Just come to Jesus, and we'll walk you through it, as it were. So God bless you
The
all.
bigger man, the better book, the better prophet, and the better Lord. Come on home. Come on home.
Yeah. All right. God bless. Bye-bye.